All right, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to We've Read the Documents Live with your host, Brisson. This evening, I have with me Oddman from the Oddcast. I want to definitely send anybody who's listening over, subscribe. I am a Patreon of Oddman, and I'm a very happy Patreon, as well as follow him on Twitter as well as I do for all his research in the Council for National Policy and Zionism from a Christian perspective. It's very refreshing to have another fellow brother in Christ who's exposing these things, which is very rare out there these days, and will probably become even more rare in the future. So, Oddman, thank you for joining me this evening.
Well, thank you, John, man. I respect your work as well, very much so, and you're very inspiring because, you do something different, and I think that brings a lot to the table, and I really appreciate your work, and always look forward to hearing what you have to say.
You too as well, brother. And it's been like that for a long time. So I guess breaking news. People, I guess, wanted me to talk about this, and I guess we'll bring it up briefly real quick. And we don't know everything about it yet, but as I talked about on my last Beast and Harlot series that enjoyed the show, and they did the will they, want they thing with Trump, it appears that Trump has been indicted on 30 counts related to business fraud.
Ooh, 30
by
counts.
Alvin
Okay.
Bragg and the Manhattan Grand Jury of the state of New York.
Wow. I didn't expect it to be that many counts, so that's interesting. I wonder what the potential charges or the potential sentencing could be for that.
Yes, we don't know yet. The judge might issue a gag order, as well as supposedly Trump will have to be booked, and he wants to be handcuffed, and all of this will happen, and he will be arraigned all before they negotiate the terms of his bail and his release. And so there is that aspect. Cohen, because this is ultimately the quote unquote greatest show. As someone who, and I'm not I'm not a Gnostic, so I understand not everything is a show, not everything is fake. Okay. But come on, let's be real here. All right. And so there has to be some sort of element of WWE to this. I remember growing up watching Trump in the WWE when, it was him versus Vince McMahon. Trump knows how to act. Trump knows how to sell. And that's what's going on here. This is theater for the masses on some level. And I'm not saying it's all fake, but this is the greatest show. This will bring in the ratings. People will all want to see this. And so Cohen, who I don't trust at all, Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer, says no one is above the law, and he's celebrating and taking victory laps. Stormy Daniels posted a new video on her OnlyFans, which come on, that just shows how much of a
Oh my God.
circus this is. Okay. About her feelings of everything. So you have to subscribe to her porn website on OnlyFans to get her thoughts, because she is also a thought too. Don Jr. has already supposedly talked about this too as well, and he called it communist level shit. And so there you go. And he will be fingerprinted, photographed after surrender, which is supposedly going to be on Tuesday. They did the old okey doke because in the news they were going around going, well, it's going to be after Easter. And so I was thinking, okay, well, if that's going to happen, then, and also the grand jury's not meeting anymore, even though they were meeting on Sundays, Thursdays, I think Wednesdays too, or maybe Tuesdays, either Tuesday or Wednesdays. And this was supposed to be their last meeting, but it had already supposedly adjourned and they were not meeting today. But it was done exactly at the last possible moment it could be done, I believe, which was around 5 p.m. So it came right then and there. And it was unexpected, supposedly, allegedly. I figured it was not going to happen, even though I thought it was when I did the stream, because they were waiting so long. Like after Easter, I was like, "There's no way this is going to happen then," but then it happened for maximum impact, and now the Q-tubers and the Q-tweeters that are involved in the QAnon operation are saying, Q tweeted the first indictment was going to be the big one to the Great Awakening, right? And Trump is the first indictment. And so they're, celebrating that this is a win. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I believe Trump's likely the Antichrist, so this is going to play into his false persecution narrative. Any thoughts, Oddman? Anything that you would like to say about this whole circus of events?
Well, I mean, it definitely has a show written all over it. The timing. My friend Infidel Pharaoh said, interesting this is happening while they're trying to roll out the, digital currency. And, there's always distractions that we're given so we won't pay attention to what's going on in the background. And he's the king of distractions. Operation Trump, he basically has kept the country divided and talking about him. And one of the things I like to say, back when he was president is, he just having him in the spotlight, he could control both sides with something that he said. Both sides would react immediately, and people worried more about him than they worried about their own freedoms. And so I feel like that is his most powerful weapon, and what a powerful weapon, and I'll say quickly too, I think I tweeted this, but I think I tweeted this yesterday, but I think it was the guys from Canary Cry played Abramovich talking about Trump being a magician, a word magician or something like that.
And that she greatly respected him.
Yeah. And then the crowd laughed, and like it was a joke. And she kind of acted like it was kind of like, well, it could be a joke, but it could be the truth. But whether it's on purpose or it's being used, whether he's really into all this stuff and really like in on the program, or he's just being used, either way, it's going the same way. We're still, the public's still being subjected to the exact same thing either way.
Yeah, very much so. Waters on Fox News, Jesse Waters says, people better be careful. Slams Trump indictment and hints at potential violence to come, which Trump also alluded to that too as well on True Social. And so we have Trump grand jury digs into hush money paid to a second woman. We already knew that to be true. That would be former Playboy model Karen McDougal. So that's nothing new. And then Donald Trump indictment. Charges won't keep him from presidential race, but will make a re-election bid much harder. Will it? Because this rallies the base for Trump. Now, I believe that they're not really elections, that they're selections, and they can put whatever numbers up they want on the screen, right? But, and I would want to. I still think it's going to be Trump versus Hillary too. I mean, you have to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd actually go even a step further now. Something I've been, mulling around about, which is if RFK Jr. runs, will RFK Jr. be assassinated?
Ooh, that's a great question.
And will RFK Jr. be assassinated by a pro-vaxxer?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a great thought there. I mean, I don't.
The liberal.
Yeah.
So, is that possible? And then we have the famous 3 debates with Hillary Trump, right? And Trump was like, you murdered my friend JFK Jr. and took down his plane so you can get a Senate seat.
Wow.
And this time you really will go to jail.
Right. Exactly. Wow. Yeah, that's
Ratings
very interesting.
like that, man. Ratings like that. Thank God I'm not writing for the world order. I'll tell you that much.
Right?
So
absolutely.
I'd constantly try to push it to see what, would they believe this? Will they believe that? So, but let's see. It's possible, Yeah,
absolutely. Anything's possible at this point. And, they know exactly how to play us. I mean, they've been experimenting on our minds, especially since the invention of social media. So unfortunately, they know exactly how to play all sides. And if they can get, they want us to riot, obviously, because I feel like this latest shooting is I feel like it's going to be the nail in the coffin for at least the automatic weapons. I think they'll get that ban. I really do. I don't know. It's just a gut feeling I have because of the way things have gone, even under Trump, with the Second Amendment restrictions we had and the people put up with it. So I don't feel good about it.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Where do you think the Council for National Policy resides with? Who are they going to throw their weight behind? Are they going to throw their weight behind Trump? Are they going to throw their weight behind Ron DeSantis? Does Ron DeSantimonious, does he even run? What do you think's going to happen with that?
You know, I almost feel like they'll go with DeSantis, just because I kind of feel like they'll tease that Trump may still run even with his charges, but I feel like he may not run in the end. I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but I just feel like why would he want to be president when he has the life that he has and all the money and the houses and, the freedom that he has? Unless he's definitely 100% in on this operation and he just wants to destroy the country.
Yes, I would agree with that. Now, very interestingly enough, something that I thought too is, since they are going to indict Trump, since Trump is going to surrender, since he will go handcuffed, allegedly, supposedly, we're getting very close to Easter. And a lot of blasphemic people on Twitter that need to repent have been going around and calling this the death, burial, and resurrection of Donald Trump, comparing it to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Interesting timing.
Right. You're right. You are right. That's a wild thought. Yeah, I've seen some things like that as well, and I still see people pushing him as, like, I know you've tweeted some things like he's our savior, he's chosen by God. They keep pushing these things no matter what he does or what his past has been, and I realize God can use people that have had a shady past, have had things happen to them, but I mean, come on, what's this guy done since he's been president? If he was this great savior and leader of the people, the free world, that job wouldn't have ended when he went out of office. He would have continued to. I mean, he was supposed to be this revolutionary guy, a man of the people. I mean, so it's sad that people are still falling for it.
Yeah, I mean, the graphical, psychological, and spiritual warfare is still continuing. It took a brief break. You had that pendulum swing of the progressives and the Democratic Party getting control, right? And now that's done with. That's gone now. I mean, literally on Twitter, as you've seen, the band is getting back together like as Blues Brothers. And they recently reinstated the accounts of In the Matrix and Shady Groove, both major players in the QAnon operation. And so this is happening right now, all in front of us. And Twitter is more broken than it has ever been since Elon Musk took it over. My DMs don't work properly as they should. I'm pretty sure you're witnessing that too as well, brother. Mm-hmm. As well as people that are supposed to be blocked or have blocked me, which I don't think the only person I've ever blocked is someone who keeps harassing me. But outside of that, I haven't blocked anybody else that I can think of. But there have been people who have blocked me. And you know what? Mm-hmm. I can see their tweets. The system is broken. Mm-hmm. Twitter's broken.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
So is that by design? I would assume so, right?
I would think so. I feel like Twitter was definitely maybe not fully CIA funded. I mean, we'll never know for sure because there's money that we're never going to know about the funding. But just the fact that it didn't seem to make any money, that's textbook government, right there. They don't run anything to make money. They're not capable of it because they're just not business minded. So it always had kind of the feeling of some kind of intel operation. And I don't feel like that's changed a bit. I feel like, it's just a different, maybe a different face of the company. Maybe he has a little bit more say than we think, but yeah, people are still getting banned, and it's just ridiculous, man. It's not what we thought it was.
I agree. Did you see that the QAnon shaman, supposedly Jacob Chansley, got released early today? He still had, I want to say, a year or more left in his prison sentence, but he supposedly got let out early and has gone to a halfway house on, I believe, probation because of the footage of January 6th that Tucker Carlson had aired, showing him being led around at the Capitol, which was withheld at his trial by the federal government prosecution. And so on Twitter, when we look at Chansley started tweeting again, he calls himself an evangelicist, and also now thanks God that he is free. Now my question is what God?
Right.
Did he? I
Right.
mean, did he become born again in prison? I guess, but it's way too early to tell. So, any
Yeah.
thoughts
Yeah.
about that shenanigan as far as the QAnon shaman being set, going to halfway house and being released from jail due to prosecutorial misconduct?
I was a little bit surprised to see that. I mean, obviously, if what we've now seen from Tucker is true, and I know, as I'm sure you know as well, we've talked to people who were there who were basically corroborating that the police were allowing people
You can watch the
to.
video. I remember watching it live.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, people, cops were even giving water to people and stuff like that. So we know that a lot of people did get railroaded, and that is interesting that he got out that early. But then again, it's like he was never on camera causing any, bodily harm or damage. So, you just hope that a lot of other people maybe will get their sentences commuted too, the ones that didn't do anything, because I know there's a lot of people that were there that I think just simply walking into the Capitol, they got railroaded. They really got the book thrown at them.
Yeah. I mean, there were people who, there were agent provocateurs there. There were people
Sure.
that probably meant to do damage and to do harm.
Yeah.
I do believe that the people that went there, they should have known better. I do believe that the people that went into the Capitol, especially into non-public areas, of course, should be charged with trespassing. Should the police be charged for allowing them to do so and following orders of the elite too as well? Of course, yes. They should be held accountable for their actions too of propagating a psychological operation. And so, but it doesn't excuse the people to just go, the feds, like Fed Alaska, they go free, and so does little Fed Fuentes. But there are a lot of people that don't,
Yeah.
that were not, and there are people that were outside that never went into the Capitol that were arrested, and there are also family members of people that were arrested too, that weren't even there, and were giving undue process, they weren't treated fairly, as was told to do, by the Bill of Rights, and so it's that did happen. But the thing is most people on the right, it's no one did anything wrong. It's either all a show or all the government's fault. And then people on the left, there was very few governmental actors or psychological warfare. You have the sedition hunters that are using Clearview AI, which is Thiel's tech, in combination with Israel to find every single person was there. You have to hunt them all out, and so there's no nuanced discussion about January 6th,
Hmm.
and, was it an insurrection? Yeah. Was it an operation? Yeah. Why can't it be all those things?
Right. Right. I agree. And yeah, anytime you get that many people, I forget the numbers now, but it was a lot of people. You're going to have, just from, if there's some people inciting a riot or inciting violence, most likely you're going to see some of that no matter what with that amount of people. It's a miracle that didn't spread like wildfire, because you know how it is with crowds. I mean, a lot of bad things can happen with crowds that wouldn't normally happen with a small group of people. So yeah, it's definitely a layered subject that neither side really wanted to look at all the facts and really be honest about it.
Yeah, that's correct. And of course, Tucker Carlson's not going to tell us the truth. CIA Tucker Carlson, just as much as CIA Anderson Vanderbilt Cooper isn't going to tell us
Right.
the truth either. Neither side is. And it was a controlled, mixed level, multi-layered, tiered event in American history. And it's being used for political propaganda and political elite advancement. And there's a lot of narratives that are being pushed about January 6th. And I mean, just, Jacob Chansley, and Tucker being involved with all that. And, now they're saying he's a reason why Jacob's at the halfway house now and out of prison. And, that the government withheld, the prosecutorial, representation of the federal government withheld this information, and this information is crucial, and so there are a lot of narratives being spun and woven and controlling of the narratives. And just like 9/11, we'll never really fully know the truth of January 6th, just like we really don't know the truth of the JFK assassination. And I think that's by design.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. Yeah, it is. And it really let me, or it kind of brought into clear view how the power of suggestion works, because I feel like a lot of those people, like you said, should have known better. I mean, I'm sure there were a lot of good people there that still thought that their government respected them, and maybe that the Constitution was still relevant to their representatives and things like that. But it just, people were kind of herded there, I feel like, by our own side for the most part,
Yeah, with conservative CMP, Ollie Alexander and Alex Jones and Michael Flynn, all
Yeah.
CMPers were literally hurting conservatives. A lot of them meant well, not all of them, but they were psychological, psychographical, and spiritual warfare done to them to get them into that position. Not all of them. There definitely were nefarious bad actors there. There were people that wanted to do harm to other people. That's why I say it's a very nuanced discussion that most people don't want to have, right? And so a lot of
Yeah.
people on the right are like, Tucker Carlson's a hero. Well, that's not true. He's part of the Mockingbird media just like everybody else is, and then people on the left will be like, what Anderson Cooper's telling us, he's a hero, and that's not true either.
Right. Yeah, because you kind of have to have two sides to, you have to have the appearance of both sides basically to make the whole thing work, in a kind of psychological perspective. And that's unfortunate for us and everyone, really, that it's hard to tell who's really on your side these days. And really, if you look back at it, all the things that we know now, from, Walter Cronkite to, I don't know, you name the other anchor and supposed journalist. We see so many of these guys were connected to the CIA or Bohemian Grove or this group or that group, and so we thought we could trust them. And back in the day, no one would have even thought that some of those guys were connected to these nefarious groups, and or the CIA for that matter. But Operation Mockingbird. But yet, that's what happened, and we know that stuff. I mean, there's no way that is not still going on. I mean, I read an article a couple of years ago from, I want to say like ebony.com. It was like like a black website. And they were talking about how the CIA had been recruiting young black men at these different events. So it was some kind of entertainment event. I forget now what it was, but that tells me that they're still getting people from the entertainment business to do their will.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, it's definitely still going on.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, we have the CMP prison military industrial complex supposedly co-opting rap music, and the meeting of the rap artists with the Jewish industry moguls, music industry moguls, with the prison industrial complex, which is CMP Heritage Foundation, Jack Eckerd, Eckerd Drugs, CMPer. um, that's they tried to co-op rap music, and steer it in direction that they could create more violence. And in doing so, you have the infamous discussion of all of that taking place, and some people within the rap industry actually coming forward and blowing the whistle on this, and some rappers choosing to not participate in such egregious activity for money. And we saw it. I'm pretty sure there was something that was going on with Caucasian America as well too, with Marilyn Manson and Kurt Cobain and
Hmm.
Pearl Jam, Eddie Vedder, and probably Eminem.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and it probably spawned a lot of the quote unquote school shootings and agitation as well in the 90s, in the early 2000s.
Mhm.
And so, they come getting, everybody from all sides, like Lupe Fiasco said, before Lupe Fiasco completely sold out, which he completely has. But he said, when they're done with my people, they're going to move on to yours, you know. So,
Yeah.
they'll get anybody they can in the entertainment industry.
Oh, for
They'll
sure.
use them to their advantage. And a lot of people are not going to talk about that. My friend DK Wilson in the chat mentioned it's definitely a horseshoe event, which I would agree with that. And he says was particularly hidden are the Capitol Police who were aiding the crowd rather than attempting to police the crowd, which is very true. That was going on, which was quite weird. And Aaron in the chat also asked if Jacob Chansley is still calling himself the QAnon shaman or the shaman. I haven't seen him, but he still has this picture of the shaman up if that is his Twitter account. Allegedly it is. So
Interesting. Okay. Okay. Well, while we're talking about this whole subject of kind of co-option of entertainment and stuff, I did the show. I'm going to do a second show, but I did a show on the I just blanked on it. It was the Cold War era. Oh my gosh. I oh my gosh, I'll think of it in a minute. But anyway, it was this group during the Cold War, and the CIA. They hired all these artists and mostly authors and writers of different sorts, and like they had people like Bertrand Russell and Arthur Koestler and Hannah Arendt and Irving Kristol, and I can't
CMP.
believe yeah, and I can't believe I'm blanking on the name. But anyway, they had 20. I think the CIA produced 25, around 2,500 books. They had 25. Interesting, they kept going with the 2 and the 5 number, but they had 25 different magazines worldwide, like really prestigious magazines, and they wanted to control the kind of the culture, and especially they wanted to influence the kind of upper crust intellectuals, especially of other countries. And the whole thing was, they claimed that they wanted to kind of get these other intellectuals from other countries from going into communism. But these guys were not conservative or traditional. And in fact, almost all the top guys were European Jews, like from Poland and Germany and different things like that. But they were liberals, and they were trying to create a liberal world order. And
Fabian
of course,
Socialists.
yeah, exactly. And so, Irving Kristol was the editor of a magazine. I think it was called Encounter, and it was like their most successful magazine. So they've been controlling. They want to control very influential people, obviously, and so they did. And so, that's kind of thing that they've been doing for years and years. And they also controlled the well, they didn't really control, but they had all these foundations: the Ford Foundation, the Carnegie Foundation. They were inventing foundations. They had one called the Farfield Foundation, and all they were ways to funnel money. It was like a way to look like you were doing something good, but you were funneling money from the CIA
It
to
was called the
these.
Congress for Cultural Freedom.
Congress for Cultural Freedom. I can't believe I blanked on that, but I've got too much up here in my
Yeah,
head
so
right now.
I understand. So that's really interesting. So, okay, that's wow. Okay, huh. Go on.
Yeah, I mean
I mean, Arthur Kessler, the 13th tribe, right?
yeah, 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 as far as I can tell, he was really like some of these guys were Trotskyites. They didn't like Stalin, and that was the whole thing. A lot of these guys had worked for Trotsky and even Lenin and stuff. But when supposedly, when Stalin took over and became so violent that they were like, okay, we can't deal with this. But they were still Trotskyites. They were neocons. That's where the whole neocon, faction came from. I guess Irving Kristol came up with that, coined the term. I'm not sure, but yeah, man, they were powerful as far as their influence. Trying to think of some of the other people they had. Oh, Orwell. I don't know if he was an official member,
Wow. Okay.
but they definitely
I see Tennessee
posted.
Williams.
Yes, Tennessee
I
Williams was
see
one.
T.S. Eliot.
Yep, yep. Big into these writers. Most of them were fictional writers, but some of them were historians as well. Arthur Schlesinger Jr., one of the most prestigious, supposedly, historians, and at the time, I think his dad had worked for the either the Council on Foreign Relations or the Royal Institute of International Affairs, but he was part of that whole Cecil Rhodes cabal and stuff. So these guys, it's amazing because we've always been told the CIA were this hardcore right-wing group, yet you've got Wild Bill Donovan and the like, and they're hiring all these European liberals instead of conservatives to try and influence the world. So
then again, then a CMP is made up of Fabian socialists, and so is the John Birch Society. So I guess things maybe not have changed. So
yeah, it seems like you can see a pattern there for sure.
And DK Wilson in chat said the CIA literally had a recruiting page for Black and minority journalists on the Emory University website, and he also wrote Emory's most famous recruit was Touré, whose first assignment was miscovering the Tupac Shakur rape case. Touré's height was working at CNN and co-hosting a Sunday show for CNN. And he also brought up, don't forget the Washington Post either, which that's very true as well, too. And so, this shows that the United States Central Intelligence Agency was greatly influencing writing, magazines, books, through whatever they feel to be necessary to discuss. And I've actually never heard about this until you talked about it. So,
yeah, another thing that they were behind was abstract art.
Wow, really? Okay, that's
yes. Allegedly, the reason they wanted to get behind that is because people were making art that had a political tinge to it, and they didn't want anything because it was the battle of the Cold War, and they didn't want any, I guess, news getting out through art, any perspective getting out through art that might make America look bad. So they decided to just throw a ton of money behind these abstract artists.
So just denigrate art as much as possible?
Exactly. And and this is how they sold it. Well, here in America, we're so free that you can just do this crazy art. There's no rules, total Crowley-esque thing, so.
Okay, that's crazy.
You're right.
And then reading here says it emerged with the Open Society Foundations by financier George Soros in 1991. So 1991, the Congress for Cultural Freedom merged with Open Society Foundation of George Soros. So, I mean, there you go. I mean, it encompasses everybody.
And I did a couple of those shows on the National Endowment for Democracy, and it's the same thing with those guys. They're very liberal, and I'm not being racist, but they have a European Jewish bent to them, which is known to be liberal. That's just the way it is, and so it's the same old thing, man. They get behind the National Endowment for Democracy. I think last time I looked, they were funding like 1,700 other NGOs. So you can imagine the influence they have worldwide, and everywhere there's a Color Revolution. There's the National Endowment for Democracy and
Mm-hmm.
Freedom House and
Mm-hmm.
you said and Open Societies for sure. So I mean, I saw Soros. I either read it or saw an interview, and he said that I think this was actually during the Clinton administration, but he said that the State Department's goals are almost exactly the same as Open Societies. So that makes sense that they're always working together.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all. I'm going to try to look up something real quick with John Kenneth Blackwell. He was a board member, I guess, as we're talking about George Soros, just real quick as an aside, that no one ever talks about this. And I try to bring this up to Jennifer Cohn. And Jennifer, if you're listening, hi. I don't know why you won't discuss this, because John Kenneth Blackwell is a CMP member, long-term, and a CFR member. He's a twofer. He's a kingmaker. So John Kenneth Blackwell is the co-chair for the International Foundations for Electoral Systems, which is a bipartisan election integrity group. And it's primarily funded by George Soros
Wow.
and other groups as well, including Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook.
Interesting. Well, I've noticed that, man. A lot of these NGOs, Facebook is funding, and of course, Google, Facebook, and usually ExxonMobil, Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase. Those are like the handful I almost always see funding these NGOs, whether it be Atlantic Council or CFR or what is it, CSIS? Forget what that stands for now. These various ones, and part of it's probably control. They want influence on policy. I mean, there's no other way around it. Of course, Rockefeller's almost always on there as well.
So some of the donors to this election integrity group is USAID, Department of State, United States Department of State, Australian Aid, Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, so Britain, Canada, the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperations. You have the Swiss, Knights Templars. You have Republique Francois, which is the French, New Zealand. You also have our foundations and private donors is Google, Meta, Microsoft, and the Open Society Foundations. So the CMP and the CFR coming together for election integrity.
Right. And, it's crazy, man, because, I didn't know about the Council for National Policy until I heard you on Jack's show that time. And, I immediately was like, Jack, you got to put me in touch with this guy. But I think I'd heard Monica Perez mention them briefly, but, not in detail. And, I've heard people act like it's crazy that you talk about them so much. But I would just tell any of you guys out there that think you're so smart, start doing the rabbit trail.
Just look into the CMP, and you'll. I mean, imagine how hard it used to be trying to look into the CMP, but now, I mean, just look. If you think that we're lying about Conservatism Inc., just research it yourself. And I understand you're going to find a lot of limited hangout sources like Ann Nelson's Shadow Network book. Yeah, previously in the past, I used to give a little bit of grace to Ann Nelson, but she's a Rockefeller member. She's proud of it. She's Council Foreign Relations member. She's proud of it. She's going against Glenn Youngkin, the governor of Virginia, but he's a CFR member. And I used to tweet at her, hey, Ann, tell Glenn hi at the CFR meeting.
Yeah, it's like these people are totally oblivious to, when they also belong to nefarious groups. It's funny because they'll they're just hypocritical. I guess they think that the people, and true, when I hear, I've heard several interviews with her, nobody ever asks her about the CFR. I heard one guy ask her, and he acted like it was stupid that people would even doubt that the CFR had nefarious
Well, she
ideas.
defends the CFR, and she has on Twitter. And then, on top of everything you just mentioned, her book, Shadow Network, I gained a few insights here and there. But what does it primarily talk about? Oh, the CMP is against abortion. The CMP is against LGBTQ rights. Are they? Is one. And then two, okay, so what about I think most people would agree, even those on the left, those who are truly honest with themselves. The grand crimes of the CMP are the Iran-Contra affair, 9/11, the Franklin scandal, drugs, Dark Alliance, supposed by Gary Webb, the death squads, Latin American death squads, like, you know, those are more like, did Ann Nelson, like, okay, if I'm gonna write a book on the CMP, you think I'm gonna spend a chapter or two on the Iran Contra affair and the Council for National Policy pretty much controlling the whole thing? Yeah. Ann
Right.
Nelson,
Yeah.
a paragraph at best. That should tell you something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, I haven't looked into it myself, but you know much better than me. I'm sure that quite a few of the CMP members were all about the war on terror and probably made a lot of money off the
Oh, they
war
were.
on
Half a
terror.
project of New American Century were CMP members.
See, yeah,
Half
I
for
mean,
CFR, half for CMP, give or take a few members.
yeah, yeah. So, you would think that would be another thing that she would talk about. But yeah, we know that looking back, the liberals really weren't against the war on terror. They
Most
like
of
to
them are
talk.
neocons now.
Yeah, yeah.
Not all of them. I'm talking about the main Twitter talking heads that
Hmm.
appear they're progressive. And I'm not going to name them here. You can go and see them yourself. If you got eyes, you can see them. They act progressive, and they're progressive on social issues, supposedly. But everything else, they're neocon. Everything else, they're
Hmm.
neocon.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And, going back to, the CMP, it's, and conservatives acting like it's ridiculous that you or even myself would talk about that. Why are they so secretive? Why do they not give out their membership? Why do they not give out what they talk about? Why don't they open their meetings to the press? If there was nothing nefarious going on, it would be open and you would know what was going on. And the more I look at it and look at your work and a few of the things I've looked into, it's like I think it's another. I think they were basically jealous that these CFR members and the like were making so much money through their organization and had so much influence. So we got to start one and do that same thing, but have our guys making money through it and have our guys getting influence through it. And you see Alec and
Mhm.
Cause, Convention of States. Mark Meckler is also, I think, a board member of Alec. And
And the
Alex,
CMP, too. He's a major member of the Council for National Policy, Mark Meckler is.
that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I was thinking that too. And the other guy, I'm blanking on the other guy who's
Well, the Convention of the States is funded by the Kochs. Kochs were CMP.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Founding
Yeah.
members of the Council for National Policy. And I mean, we know that Soros, again, okay, so let me ask you this real quick, and I'll let you finish your thought, but this
No.
pertains to Convention of the States. Soros originally was funding secession. Mike Gaddy and I used to talk about it back in the day, and if you go and look, it's definitely there. And then all of a sudden, Convention of the States, Mark Meckler puts out this thing where Soros is against secession now because they're for secession. And you're like, Constitutional Convention of CONInc. Look, I don't think the founding fathers, call no man father, of the United States of America, majority of them were deists at best, most likely Illuminists, Satanists, Masons, and mass mystery Babylon adherents. Maybe Patrick Henry wasn't. Maybe he was a true, genuine Christian. But for the rest of them, no, definitely not Benjamin Franklin, definitely not George Washington, definitely not Thomas. Thomas Jefferson wrote a book, that cut out all the miracles and divinity of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I call it a book because it's not a revision of the New Testament or a translation of the New Testament. It's just a book, And
Yeah.
so, they weren't. These guys were not for us. This was a grand Illuminati, experiment to go from the divine, not the divine, what they call the divine right of kings or just kings, to democracy or constitutional republic. Okay. And so that's what it was. And, these people still think the founding fathers are the bee's knees. But that being said, though, with all their issues and with all the issues of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, it is still better than what a con would do now.
Hmm. Yeah. I believe so too. And one of the reasons is because all the temptations, all the different, big moneyed organizations that would be influencing these guys who would be controlling the con. I mean, back in the day when they talked about the having a possible convention of states, or I guess they did have one convention of states. Is that right? But,
Yes.
I know that they didn't have nearly all these outside influences trying to control them as they would today. And I know Sink Uyghur, however you say his name, Young Turks, he's for a convention of states. He's got this wolf pack that they've been pushing it for years now. And there's just no guarantees if you open up the Constitution what will happen. And I'm pretty sure it would set a precedent that one time, then other places are going to start doing it. Other places are going to start doing it.
Yeah.
And before you know it, it'd be a real mess. And I think that's why they want it to open up, because I mean, the politicians now, they were bad back in the day. They're not better now.
No.
We don't live in a better society as far as more righteous now than we did then. So you can imagine.
Well, the Convention of the States, their lead platform to try to entice conservatives, true conservatives, and other people within the United States as well, to be okay with the con, literally is term limits in members of Congress. And it's
right.
like, well, yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. I think it probably is. But you ain't changing the Constitution for that. You better put that through an amendment. All right.
Right.
And then they go, well, that's the only thing they have like one or two other things that seem okay. I don't remember what they were offhand, but they're like, that's all we're gonna do is just these things, right? We're not gonna change anything else, right? And it's like, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
You're lying. And so, that's what they're trying to push.
Yeah. And if you look at, Mark Meckler is the head of it. And then he's also, I believe, on the board of ALEC. And ALEC has, Eli Lilly and Pfizer and, all these horrible companies as members. And, ALEC was also created by CMP, if I'm not mistaken.
It is,
and
yes.
So, I mean, you cannot trust these guys. They have too many shady connections. And, it's just a bad idea. I mean, because if we enforce the laws now, we have everything we need to hold our government accountable. It's just that we don't enforce them. And so I think that opening up, the Constitution, of course, they say it's not opening it up, but I got to give credit to, as douchey as he is, Glenn Beck, and even Bongino changed their minds
Mormon
on it.
Glenn Beck. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, is there other factions within the CMP in play? Beck is against Alexander Duggan, supposedly. MWC in the chat, shout out to US90. Hope you're doing well, brother. Dugan's motto is neither left nor right, but against the center. And so, sometimes these CMPers throw us a curveball. Maybe Glenn Beck really just does not like Duggan. He's had Tenenbaum on to discuss Duggan. But I mean, I don't trust Glenn Beck, and I know you don't either, as far as I could throw a brick. I mean, he's ultra-Zionist, Mormon, Council for National Policy member, true and true. And yeah, I'm glad they changed their mind on this, but then my question is why? And especially Dan Bongino. I've been door dashing these past few weeks and listening to talk radio, because it's too much work to put a podcast on my phone to play, and it's just easier just to listen to talk radio. I've learned that Dan Bongino is no Rush Limbaugh, which I despise Rush Limbaugh, but at least the man was entertaining. At least there's that. He had a golden voice for radio, okay?
Right.
And I despise everything about the man. But at least when you listen to him, yeah, I might be angry sometimes, and I might dislike what he's saying, but every now and then he could make it funny.
Yeah.
Dan Bongino, who's his replacement, has nothing. Literally nothing. Like, literally, like, the man is nothing. Like, there's nothing. He's not charismatic. He's not good. He has no original thoughts. He tries to be edgy. He's not. He's not funny. There's no funny skits. There's nothing. All
Yeah.
right? There just isn't. And Ben Shapiro, listening to him, is really just. I can't go. Him and Mark Levin, I can't go more than 15 minutes. Or
Yeah.
I just turn the radio off because it's just so bad. It's just so
Right.
bad. Conservative talk radio is complete and utter garbage. Now, I understand it always has been, but now it is. Look, I'm not a fan of any of these people, but I would take listening to Michael Savage over Ben Shapiro. And I understand both of them aren't Zionists, both of them are scumbags. I get it. But Savage at least would tell an entertaining story here and there. Ben
Right.
Shapiro is like listening to someone constantly taking metal claws that you tear meat and barbecue with on a chalkboard over and over and over again every time he opens his mouth.
Yeah, unlistenable. It really is. Yeah, I mean, that's the only reason I every now and then tune into Glenn Beck, because as bad as he
He's
is,
at
at
least
least,
listenable too, yeah.
and he makes fun of himself, and that at least is kind of refreshing, because some of these other guys are so serious, and especially Levin and I guess, I don't know, maybe not Shapiro as much, but I think he's
And
pretty serious
Hannity's
too.
horrible too. Hannity's always been bad. Just straight up
Yeah,
always been bad. And
really is, man.
Neil Bortz as a libertarian used to be interesting, I
Yeah,
mean, he's still a scumbag too. They all are, but at least he
right.
was interesting. It's interesting we're talking about conservative talk radio right here. But
Yeah,
Rush Limbaugh truly was one of the only ones that I could partially stand to listen to. Not that I took it anything he said for face value, but at least it was well spoken and funny sometimes. You know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, he did kind of have the liberals' number, even if he wasn't, you know, uh, completely and totally serious about it. And of course, there was tons of places he would never touch, like all the conservatives. There's so many places they won't go. But
And he
yeah,
was
he was at
CMP
least in.
too, Rush Limbaugh was.
That figures. They have the whole gambit of conservatism, all the
Well,
talking
Mark
heads.
Levin was too. We don't know about Hannity, but I'm sure he was. I mean, Rush Limbaugh was addressing the CMP in the 90s.
Mhm.
He was. And then Mark Levin was on the membership roster. And Rush just goes, well, I've just addressed the CMP a few times as the keynote speaker, but I never was a member. They never would allow me. And I'm like, yeah, I don't believe that's for like a little brick. you know. Is there any other CMP? What about YouTube CMP conservative talking heads? I really can't stand Matt Walsh. I cannot stand that man. He is not saved. He is a heathen Catholic, and there is no love in that man. He is nothing but division in rhetoric. And I can understand that he questioned Israel. I don't know how many years ago. Good for him. He bent the knee to Ben Shapiro, one of the biggest Zionists in the game. Okay, and I was listening to Walsh talk about the shooting, and I was watching him too, and he was like, I'm glad the person who did it, this is what he said. He's like, I'm glad the person he did it suffered all the way up as they were shot in the last moments of their life, and now they're completely burning in hell. And I was like, okay, look, I understand that, you could become upset. Christians were targeted. You and I are born again Christians. I get that. I'm going to do a show on this tomorrow that actually it appears that if, everything is above board with this, the church, the Covenant Presbyterian Church in Nashville, there is multiple evidence in place that it was part of a secret right, multi-church network in the area, elite pedophile ring.
Oh, wow. Damn.
And so, yeah, look out for that show tomorrow. I think I have everything together for that. That's going to be interesting. And no one is covering that. I saw like one pro LGBTQ big thread on it that was being pushed, but outside of that, I've seen nothing. And doing the research, it definitely checks out that it was covered up, and it rings
Mm,
all the bells. There was a safe house where foster kids were going to when the guy was an abuser. That's very much akin to the Fresh Air Fund. Um, and so, that's definitely, it's interesting. It goes to the top levels, and I don't know their complicity, but it goes to the top levels of Christian apologetics that are one degree of separation. And I'm not
mm.
saying they were a part of this. We know one Christian, so-called Christian apologist was, and he was the one the allegations were brought up against. But we don't, I'm still flushing this out. So hopefully that show will be tomorrow. I'm still trying to find out if he's a member of the Council for National Policy. I have inklings and intuition that he is, but I don't know. But no one is covering this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
when there's smoke, there's fire. And there is a lot of smoke. A lot of smoke.
Wow, I haven't heard that. That's very interesting. I'll definitely check that out.
But okay, so who are? But I guess to finish on Matt Walsh, there was no empathy. There was no God, wishes for none to perish. There's there. In my opinion, God is long suffering and doesn't take pleasure for people eventually being cast into the outer darkness. Okay.
Right.
And so some Christians may disagree with me on that. And so, to sit there and there be no, what, I'm not excusing what happened if it's above board, and I'm not excusing, any of that. But what I'm saying is we are supposed to love our enemy. And there was
Right.
a lot of division that I saw on Twitter of Christians not acting Christ-like. And Matt Walsh had none. There was not a shred of love and decency in that man. And I've always seen Matt Walsh as a divider. I've always seen him as a snake. I've never liked him. There's always been something off to me about him. He seems like a sociopath to me. And so, and I guess real quick, other conservative YouTube talk shows, and I want to hear your list. I think Steven Crowder could be funny sometimes. I do. I always have. I don't trust him or like him, but I think he does have talent. The same with Kabbalah bracelet wearing Alex Stein.
Mm.
He threw his lot in with the CMP. He was warned. That's what happens. Tucker Carlson. Yeah, one time in 2016, yes, briefly, I was a fan. I thought Tucker was our guy. But now I cannot stand listening to him at all. I don't think he's talented, and I don't think he's a very good actor. I think he's pretty bad. Anybody else that you could think of, or anybody you want to discuss? Yeah, Prager. Oh, Prager's really bad.
Oh.
Really, really bad. Prager Jew. Yeah, Aaron. But go ahead.
Yeah. I know. Not really. I mean, yeah, Prager's a great. Like you think about it, Prager and Savage. Of course, I think Savage retired, but now he's back, or maybe he just does podcasts.
Just this podcast.
Let's see who else. Prager, Savage, Levin, Medved's another guy. I think that's how you say it. They got a lot of these conservatives who are Jewish, but like you said, Savage is really the only one that was entertaining to listen to. Those other guys are like horrible
Especially when
to listen
Savage
to.
talked about food.
Right? Yeah.
He was really good at talking about food.
Yeah.
And yeah, Savage was the only one that was you could listen. I mean, except when he went on his neocon rants. But
Mhm.
that stopped kind of after Trump, but then you had a lot of Trump bootlicking,
Yeah.
but it's still Anybody else that you could think of that you listen to? Alex Jones, obviously, CMP. Can't stand. It makes me want to bang my head against the wall listening to Alex Jones now for any 5 minutes. Like just
Oh yeah.
thank anybody who sends me clips. Thank you, Carson, brother, for sending me the clips that you have. Um, I can't.
Yeah, Alex, man, he is looking horrible. You know, I saw him on Tim, whatever his name is, Tim,
Paul.
the gay comedian, kind of big guy. Tim, real popular, but I've never really cared for him. He was on there a few weeks ago, and my wife was watching it, and I was like, you know what? I remember specifically Alex Jones saying he was right around my age, and this guy looks to be in his, I don't know, he looks to me like he's like 63, 64. I mean, this guy is living a hard life. He must be a big, I would say a heavy drinker, but yeah, the guy he's just about unlistenable
Tim
now.
Dillon?
I mean, Tim Dillon, that's it. Yeah.
You think Tim Dillon's unlistenable? Or Alex Jones?
Both.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just not, I know a lot of people like Tim Dillon, and you know, I've heard him say some things I agree with, but I don't know if it's just his voice or what. Something just gets on my nerves about it. So
What about Tim Pool?
You know, the only time I've ever listened to him was he had blanking on the guy's name, but he wrote a book about Soros, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I want to check this out. And they literally talked about crypto the whole show. In the last 10 minutes, they kind of talked about Soros, but didn't really get into any deep specifics at all. So it was just, that's really my only, and I did listen to the one where Crowder was on there, but honestly, I thought it was pretty boring. I mean, nothing really stood out to me.
What about Bill O'Reilly?
That guy irritates the hell out of me, I have to say.
Okay.
I hear him in the mornings. I listen to Fox radio when I'm taking my kid to school, and he always does a commercial on there for like AMAC, and then he does a little like 2-minute thing, you know, where he's trying to give his perspective on something. But I think he was always so arrogant, you know, he just always was, the way he presented himself is completely right. And, you know, no one else's opinion matters whatsoever. It kind of turned me off, you know?
Okay. What about, see, this is fun. And then we can do our top 3 lists of people that we can't stand, but we at least build a radio network around them. Okay.
Okay.
People love doing that. So, all right. So Carson asked for Owen Benjamin and Jesse Lee Peterson. Jesse Lee Peterson bugs the living daylights out of me. He's also a unrepentant homosexual man and believes in sinless perfectionism. So yeah, he's not saved. Owen Benjamin. I feel bad for Owen Benjamin. I don't hate Owen Benjamin. I know that he's done a lot of very horrendous and likable things, and he's blasphemed the Trinity. But sometimes he is funny. And he's ripped a lot of people off. You know, there's a lot of people that did a lot of good work exposing Owen Benjamin, like Sam Whitfield and my friend Jesse Spots and Davey Crocco. And I wish I could remember everybody else. I'm sorry, I can't remember anybody else. There's a lot of people that you know, exposed Owen Benjamin or even tried to build some common ground with him, but ultimately failed. Who's Milker Nation? I like Milker Nation's clips about Owen Benjamin. But you know, and ultimately, I feel for Owen in some level. I hope Owen really does become saved. Hopefully that makes sense. But go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you know, when he first started kind of waking up, I just found him because I heard him on a podcast, and I was like, oh, who's this guy? You know, I wasn't familiar with him, and he was making a lot of sense, you know, and then he got deep into the Jews, and that was before I'd really delved into it deeply. And so I kind of got turned off by that. And I'm still turned off by the way a lot of these guys like Adam Green and the guys who do come off just really anti-Semitic and use a lot of like derogatory terms as far as, bodily features and different things like that. I think that is weak.
And anti-Christian.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it just works in the hands of the Zionists. That's what they want, because they can say, oh, listen, they're so anti-Semitic, they hate Jews. As opposed to if you bring up, you stick to the history and read from their own books and different things like that, there's not much they can say about you. They can ban you and censor you. But I was, kind of turned off by that. But then, heard him after that. He kind of calmed down and kind of like, okay, well, he's making quite a bit of sense now. But I don't know. He's another guy that's so arrogant, and he's like, he'll be saying something that I agree with, but then he kind of goes off the deep end, I notice he does that a lot. I don't know if other people are kind of turned off by that, but and also I'll say too, the fact that he goes after everybody. I don't think he could be friends with any person. I think he was like partnered with Vox Day for a while.
He was.
I don't know much about.
He still is though.
Oh, okay. I thought, because I'm pretty sure
Takes two sociopaths to be able to get together like that.
Right. Yes. Because I did listen to Owen on something a while back, and he was saying some derogatory things about Vox Day. And so I was like, oh, I guess maybe they're not partners anymore, but maybe it was just kind of a tiff or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, he's kind of all over the place, man. He kind of does seem like one of those people that maybe has, not always wrong by any means, but kind of maybe some sort of mental issue.
Yes, I would agree with that. Candace Owens, I'm not a fan. You?
No, I mean, I think she presents herself well. She's a smart person, but I'd say people just look into her husband. I don't trust her, and I don't trust him. And yeah, she feels like a plant to me.
Mark Dice.
He's another one.
He is more tolerable than the rest of them that we've mentioned so far. I will give Mark Dice that. Yeah,
I mean, I think Mark puts out some good information for sure. I can't deny that. Mm-hmm. And I used to like his man on the street segments way back in the day. He would go to the beach or whatever and ask people. I'm sure he probably still does that, but sometimes he can kind of come off like as a Chad. It's like when he's making fun of people, it's like he's just so, oh, this person's so stupid.
Yeah,
that's kind of his thing, though.
Like a jock, he's like a meathead. So
exactly. But yeah, he is more tolerable than some for sure.
Paul Joseph Watson.
Man, I have not heard him in forever. Back in the day, I kind of liked him. I mean, he was kind of, he kind of just put out information. He wasn't too opinionated. But of course, with his links and stuff, I don't trust him.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Paul Joseph Watson. Never really have been. He's a British monarchist now. There's also been homosexual allegations with Paul Joseph Watson. Not a fan. Let's see here. Let's get a few more. This is interesting. You liking this? People are digging in the chat. Cool. Joseph Corsi.
Oh, that's the older guy,
Jerome
right?
Corsi, not Joseph Corsi. The ultra-Zionist Jerome Corsi.
I honestly can't say I know much about him, except for the fact that he is a Zionist.
And a major Council for National Policy member and a shill, above-level Mossad intelligence and shill. Corsi is once part of the QAnon operation. Can't stand the guy. Okay. Andrew Tate.
I don't know much about him. I've never watched him in my life. Just the headlines I've seen where, people are saying things about him is all I know. I've got a good friend and he likes him. And he's like, you got to check him out. But I don't know enough to really say.
Okay, I'll comment on Andrew Tate. He works for the Antichrist, the beast system, to come. He's pushing a lot of Matrix talk on his Twitter account. He also, I believe that he's a homosexual. I believe that he's a complete degenerate. I believe that he did, some women probably sadly, tragically want to do pornography. But there were women that he probably likely coerced, possibly forced to do this to make his money. I think he's a despicable human being. We should pray for him. Hopefully he does get saved. But I am not a fan. He is a horrible person, and I do not care if he rots in prison. Now, granted, I was probably all some sort of show, but the longer if he is truly rotten in Romanian prison, I hope he picks up the Bible and starts reading it and taking it to heart. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about Andrew Tate. I can't stand the man. Stephen K. Bannon.
I think he's just wholly unlikable. I don't know. I don't know if it's his looks, if it's his voice. And I've heard him say a few things that I agree with, but I don't like the guy. Maybe that's shallow of me, but
I'm not a fan either. And I've done many streams to expose Bannon. I'll give him this. He's interesting. He's charismatic. I will give him that. Is there anything redeemable about him? No. Hopefully he comes to the Lord. But he is charismatic, and he's a good orator. And I will give him those things. Someone else asked, let's see here. See if we got anybody else to go through the list. I had someone I thought a minute ago, but I had lost them. Let me see if I can remember. Do you got anybody else that you want to think of anything?
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious if you're familiar with him. Dave Smith, the libertarian guy.
Yes, the Lobritarian. I don't pay him any attention. That should show you how little I care about him. You?
Gotcha. I used to follow that whole movement quite a bit. I've never joined, any
so did I.
organization.
I used to be a Lobritarian. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think that as far as libertarians go, I think he and one other guy, Professor Tom Woods, I think they say a lot of things I agree with. They're very kind of like teetering on the edge of conservative libertarian. And I think they pay for that a lot of times because other libertarians kind of call him out on that. But I think he's a very articulate guy, and I kind of I still enjoy. I'll listen to him every great now and then. He's supposed to run for the libertarian president, which that's just a joke anyway. But at least he does talk about freedom and liberty in a way that's really conservatives should be talking about.
Okay, Scott Adams.
I never got the appeal of Scott Adams. I really never did.
I'm not a fan of Claude Adams. I've been following him for a long time. He is a very despicable, degenerate human being who we must pray for. And he has some very questionable sexual proclivities, supposedly, allegedly. He's a very arrogant person. And he is just an all-around, just insufferable guy. And so I am not a fan. Michael Malice, Rosalind asks. I don't follow Malice. I see him. I can't comment on him.
He's another, kind of in that Dave Smith camp, another libertarian. He's more Ayn Randy, objectivism, where Dave's more libertarian. But he's a clever guy. I'll give him that. But I think he's another one of these guys that's so all about defending the private sector that he ends up defending them when they do bad things too, which I think a lot of libertarians do. And that's a big turnoff to me. Funny guy, but I don't care for him.
Oswald asked me about Jeffrey Tucker. Don't trust him. You?
I don't think I...
Brownstone Institute?
He's another libertarian guy, right?
Kind of ish.
Tucker. The gay guy? Tucker?
I don't know if...
Where's it?
I don't know if Jeffrey Tucker is homosexual.
Bow tie?
You talk about Tucker Carlson.
No, there's a it's something, I was thinking it was Jeffrey Tucker. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's a Jeffrey something, and he wears a bow tie. I think he's a libertarian, but we're probably not talking about the same guy.
Yeah, I don't think so. Brownstone Institute is very much about exposing the V's. So,
Okay.
um, one more. I'm taking people that are known primarily from Conservative Inc. Is what we're trying to get at. Not all these people that we mentioned, I think, are.
Yeah.
Someone asked E. Michael Jones. Definitely not a fan. You?
I like some of the things he says, but I feel like I don't like just looking at the guy gets on my nerves. Not that I'm something great to look at, but and I don't trust him, of course, either. You know, I know where he's where he's
Oswald said
coming
Jeffrey
from.
Tucker is totally gay, but doesn't acknowledge it and runs in libertarian circles. So,
Okay, it is the same guy. I
Car-
don't know
Car-
much about him. I've
Car-
just seen
oh Lord,
like
Carson.
headlines here and there.
Carson asked about Blair White. Blair White is a unrepentant transsexual. Enough said. You?
Don't even know him.
Don't even know him. There you go.
No.
Correct answer. All right. I think that's it. So your top three. So I'll give mine first. I'll let you ruminate for a minute and think about it. My top three, if I had to build a network, are, and these are people that I don't like, but I would find them entertaining enough to listen to that I would be able to not claw my eyes out. Rush Limbaugh, Michael Savage, non-neocon Michael, well, dialed down neocon Michael Savage. And he's not talking about Zionism, okay? He's just talking about his life, okay? And Steven Crowder, you?
Oh, that's good, man. That would probably be my my choices too. I'll say Beck, Savage, and I mean I have to go with Rush too. You know, because he was
So
just
Beck, Savage, and Limbaugh, huh?
yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. It's and these people are we're not endorsing any of them.
No.
We're just saying if we had to, if you had a radio station and they're on and they're part of conservative media, I can't listen to Alex. I'm sorry, I just can't. I can't listen to him anymore. He's just too much. It's too much. It's just too much to listen to Alex Jones. It's just I can't. I can't.
Yeah, and if you try to listen to him when he has a guest on, I mean, I assume he's still like this. You know, that was the only reason really to ever listen to him is if he had a good guest on. I mean, he knew his stuff, but he was so sporadic, it was hard to really get good information from him. But if he had a good guest on, you know, you could really find out some cool stuff. But he would interrupt the guest every 5 seconds, so they couldn't even get their thoughts out. So it was really, it made me nervous to actually listen to him, you know?
Yeah. I can't add Alex Jones in my top three. I just can't, just because he's now, especially now more than ever. I don't know if it's the Coke. Maybe it's the Coke. He's just so insufferable. You know,
Yeah.
like just
Yeah.
like I can't listen to him. No, there's no way, DK. There's no way you choose Ben Shapiro to listen to. That's just I can't believe that. Oswald asked about Naomi Wolf. I mean, she runs with Tucker. I don't pay her any attention. You?
Yeah, I don't know much about her, to be honest.
I see her around. You know, she runs around with Tucker. Tucker has her on a lot. I don't give her any time of day. Really.
I saw something pretty cool a few weeks ago, and he's a conservative, but like not, I guess you wouldn't say in a mainstream conservative circle, but Adam Curry, you know, No Agenda, you know, he's like the podfather or whatever, you know, they say
Yeah,
he's
but
the
I
one
don't put
that
him in
started.
Conservative Inc. That's why I didn't mention him.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's definitely.
They now
but
want us to do bottom three.
Oh, well, I was going to say real quick, Adam became a Christian. He became saved. So I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, because he's up there, he's like in his, I guess, late 50s. But he's a smart guy, and I think he's done a lot for, you know, conservatism and the political world in general, like helping people understand things that they normally wouldn't understand.
All right, so bottom three. I'll go first. Oh boy, this one's okay. Shapiro. Shapiro, definitely Shapiro. Jones. Just because you can't, there's nothing there. Like pre 2016, Alex actually let a person get a word in edgewise. Sure, I wouldn't put him in my bottom three. I'd actually probably put him in my top three if we go back, 2008 Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Now, no, just no, I can't. Ooh, I wouldn't put Nick in my bottom three S90 because Nick Fuentes can actually be kind of funny sometimes because he's just so ugh. He's just so out there. He can make me laugh sometimes. I don't like Richard Spencer, but his voice doesn't bug me enough to make me his boy Milo. Who has a good one? We didn't even talk about Milo. I mean, unrepented homosexual. Ali Alexander's unrepented homosexual. Ali's also allegedly a pedophile. You know what? I'll put Ali Alexander. Anytime Ali opens his mouth, anytime Scammy Davis Jr. opens his mouth, even if he writes something on he is such an arrogant little Council for National Policy weasel. He is just so smarmy. It's such a liar. He'll lie to anybody about anything. Ali Akbar will. Yeah, I'm putting Ali on my third. Ali should not be allowed a phone, a computer, anything that he can, contact the collective outside world with. He can have a home phone line. That's just how bad he is. He's full of demons. He's insane. We should pray for Ali Alexander. He needs help. He really legitimately needs help. Okay, your top bottom three. And what do you think about Ali Alexander real quick?
Yeah, he's the epitome of untrustworthy. Like they should have that in the dictionary or the encyclopedia or whatever. Yeah, the guy just comes off as fake as all get out, and he's almost got like a grin when he's saying something. Like,
yeah.
So
almost like I can't believe I got away with this one, and he's telling his audience that he could literally time travel.
Right. Man, I have to say probably from the ones we've talked about, definitely Prager because he is.
Oh, okay, good choice.
So boring. Good grief.
Good choice. And ultra Zionists and hates Christians like Benji. Just pray for Prager. He's just an insufferable person.
Part of the Chabad mafia.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah, and probably, gosh. Honestly, probably Shapiro, but I can't listen to him. It's just his voice.
He made him sound like a Muppet.
Hey, guys. I don't know. He's just so obnoxious. But, who else? Oh man, I don't want to. This is going to make me sound like the racist I am, but I guess I'll go with Levin because I hate his voice too.
Oh, it's so
that guy's
bad.
voice is horrible.
It's so insufferable. You picked all three Jews. You took the Jew trifecta.
Yeah, I did.
And DK Wilson said, "Imagine Ali Akbar, Milo, and Shapiro hosted by Alex Jones." I don't think you can get much gayer than that.
I was thinking a minute ago, it would be kind of fun to see Alex Jones, see some of these other guys, big shots, have to interact with Alex Jones on a show. That would be entertaining because they're like, formatted, robotic, and he's just crazy as hell, honestly.
Well, what about Levin, Prager, and Shapiro?
Yeah, there we go.
All three of them together.
Yeah.
With Andrew Klavan.
They would you might as well just bring Netanyahu
and Jordan
into
Peterson. Jordan Peterson's the best boy.
Oh my God. You know, and I saw the, what's the one? I think he's an Orthodox Christian. He's an artist. And now he's hanging out with Shapiro and Jordan and,
Pajau?
um,
Jonathan Pajau?
yeah, that's him. That's him. Yeah.
Jonathan Pajau. Yeah, he's always been around Peterson. That's nothing new.
Oh, is it? Okay. Well, I saw a picture the other day. He tweeted it, I think, and it's like hanging out with some really interesting people or something like that. And it was Shapiro and Peterson and somebody else. And I think they were in Israel. So I was like, okay, that's those people suck. Yeah,
There's
that's
a lot.
my
There's a lot of
thoughts.
oy veys in the chat right now. Oy vey. And look, you know, we don't hate any of these people. We earnestly hope that they repent and they truly come to God and become born again. Any of the conservatives that we mentioned, you know, any of them, you know, and it's very sad. It's truly sad because as I'm a Christian conservative and many of my beliefs lean right,
Yeah.
you know, there's no one that represents us. It's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
controlled. At least from, you know, a non, you know, alternative conventional Mockingbird media, there definitely isn't. And even the alternative media, a lot of it's CMP controlled, Jumper Society controlled. And, you know, it's I don't know, it's sad. But then again, the progressives don't really have anybody that represents them either. I might disagree with them from an ideological standpoint, but they don't. NPR,
Yeah.
the Young Turks, they don't have anybody either. You know, CNN, Anderson Cooper, Tucker made Rachel Maddow. No, they got nobody.
Mhm.
They don't got nobody. We got nobody. So nobody has anybody that represents them. None of them are our guys and our gals. And that's the state of things. But then again,
Yeah.
maybe it's always been that way. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you may be right about that. You know, they give us kind of the, you know, as we talk about the illusion of choice, and it's the same with the pundits in the media. I mean, they kind of tell us what we want to hear, and they kind of, you know, they'll complain about the other side and point out some things the other side's doing, but there's usually no inner party accountability, and they just give us this false reality, and unfortunately, they don't have integrity. They don't have principles. And for the few of us who are trying to stick to our principles, we realize, well, we have no big representation. You know, it's just not there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So just trust in God and the Lord because there ain't nobody else. None of these people are your guys or your gals. And, you know, while we do try to bring you the truth to the best of our abilities, we're only human as well. You know, so definitely,
Absolutely.
you know, research these things, you know, your own to the best of your ability. And, you know, and we're going to be wrong too. It's, you know, we're human, you know, and, you know, maybe not all of these people are as nefarious as we think they are. A lot of them probably are misguided in that they just covet money or power or fame, infamy, you know.
Yeah.
But all right, Oddman, it's been a pleasure. People loved it in the chat. They love this episode. They love getting
Awesome.
our hot takes on Conservative Inc. and our hot takes on who's our top three and who's our bottom three. Will you tell everybody where they can find you, brother?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to either Twitter or Instagram, just type in _the odd man out, and you'll find all my other links in the profile. There's a link tree in there, but yeah, and you can find the podcast, and I do videos occasionally, but yeah, you can find my posts and different things like that. And check out the series, Those We Don't Speak Of.
Great
It goes
series.
over Zionism, and I think it goes over it in a way that's not hateful and anti-Semitic like some people. So
Yeah,
check it out.
And then also they'll try to paint you as such anyway. So we're gonna probably
For
be
sure.
on some eventual ADL watch lists anyway, because that's how it is. I guess
yeah.
Aaron. I guess one last thing in closing, we should leave people this. Who are the top three people that you listen to?
You know, I have to be honest, I barely listen to anyone anymore just because I'm always trying to, you know, research for my own show. But Honestly, the only person I've been listening to lately might sound funny to some people, but Bible Answer Man, Hank Hanegraaff. Been listening to that because he doesn't preach. He just gives these answers, straightforward answers biblically, and I kind of appreciate that. It helps me to understand things. But every now and then, I might listen to the No Agenda show, or I might listen to what's the other one? I haven't listened to it in a while. The Propaganda Report. Every now and then, I'll listen to that, and you know, that's about it, man. Really.
I will say, it's hard for me to choose three people. It really is. It really is hard to. I listen to you. Obviously, there's so many people I
Thank
can
you.
name. It's hard for me to dwell down. Drill down into three people that I
Yeah.
listen that are my quote unquote favorite. It's tough. Like there are a lot of people out there that I think are good, even if I don't agree with everything that they say or that I enjoy listening to them. And just because I say I listen to someone doesn't necessarily mean I recommend them either.
Right. Right.
I mean, for drama, for all the drama and stuff like that, and everything, I like listening to PPP and Andy Worski. I think Andy Worski is someone who we should truly pray for. But I do like Ashton. I do like PPP. I disagree with him on some things, but I do like him. It sucks that he went through kind of like his Hollywood Hogan NWO grifting arc. But it's tough. I really, I guess the people I listen to real quick, and we'll end it with that, is, of course, you. Obviously, I'm a Patreon of yours. Jack
Thank
Allen,
you.
shout out to our buddy Jack. Hope he's doing well. Pretty much people that I have on this show, I listen to. So the people that I don't, that I wish, well, not wish, I would hope would come on, reread the documents, are people like Mike from On Point Preparedness, for example. I would love to interview Mike. Another is Cindy. I think her channel's 7 Grains of Salt on YouTube. I would love to interview her as a fellow sister in Christ as well. I'll be interviewing Donnie Darkened next week off of Twitter, so that's going to be a very interesting interview. I'm so glad to be able to do that. So there are people that I would hope to interview in the future. But most of the people that I recommend, if I'm frequently interviewing them or working with them, then, there is some degree of respect there. There's some people that I do need to bring back and interview again. There's some people that I have not brought on this channel that I still talk to on a daily basis, like LB Bork, who's one of my best friends. And so, I mean, there, it's just how it is sometimes, and
Yeah.
I don't, and so there are, pretty much anybody that I have fellowship with, or friends with, or people that I share a lot, that I'm listening to on Twitter, or people that I talk about a lot, or you see me interacting with a lot or interviewing a lot. Those are the people that I trust. And sadly, some people have fallen off to the wayside of people that I used to consider friends, or people that I used to consider to have valuable information. And if you really pay attention to my channel, and I'm not going to name names here, you would see that. You would see that happen. You would see people that I used to interact with, anymore, and not all of them were people that had fallen away, but some of them were. And and so it's tough. It's tough in this community. It's tough for conspiracy theorists to even have friends to begin with. Really, let's be real here. Majority of us are introverts and lone wolves. Uh, you know, um, but it's just there are a lot of people out there that are interesting to listen to that I don't agree with. There's some people that do agree with them, and those people I tend to put on this channel, and those people I tend to recommend. And I would assume it's probably the same for you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do too many guests. I really got to start doing more guests, but yeah, I agree totally, man. I'll binge watch your videos sometimes for sure. And there is one other one I'll say quickly. It just came to my mind. Every now and then I will listen to Geopolitics and Empire with Havori Morik, which is a really cool guy. I don't know if you've ever spoken to him, but he's a
No.
Christian, and just a wealth of knowledge about geopolitics, and really interesting guy. But he really has some cool guests on that that really have like a great perspective on mainly
And
geopolitics.
shout
So
out to
he's
Conspiracy Kyle too as well. You guys should subscribe to Kyle. Kyle's another fellow brother in Christ. Someone who I'm going to have on By Their Fruits. And shout out to Jeremy Stone as well. I'm co-hosting By Their Fruits. Go follow By Their Fruits on Spotify. I'm going to put some of the streams up that we have done, previous ones up on my Odyssey channel. But we're gonna, and we'd like to interview you too as well, Odd Man, for By Their Fruits too as well.
oh
But
cool. Yeah.
it's and then maybe, I guess, one day, I hope this is not too controversial, maybe one day you and I can debate Jay Dyer. Maybe. And I'm not gonna ask in closing, what do you think of Jay Dyer? I've already made on this channel
Well,
my opinions of Jay. So.
actually, I've done a few shows with him
I know.
recently, and we've gotten along well. So, he's been very nice to me. And
Hope this doesn't put a wedge in between that. If it does, I'm sorry. So.
now you know how it is, and I'm like, man, we've all got friends who do not get along or have something, a beef with each other, and you're kind of in the middle or whatever. I don't know him that well, but we get along well so far, and so. But I would like to see you guys debate, because honestly, I think you guys would have a great conversation. But
It would be, and Jay, it's always open. I don't want to do an Orthodox Christianity versus me being a Baptist. That's not what I've always wanted to debate you on. I wanted you to debate you on the importance of the CFR versus the CMP, brother. Any day you want to debate on that, anywhere, anytime, I am down. And the same debating branch, and I would do it very friendly, of course, no ad hominem attacks, also extends itself to Jason Burmis, which I also don't think will ever happen.
no, probably not.
But all right, everybody, that is it. Take care. God bless you. I will see you later. Odd Man, stay for a few minutes if you don't mind afterwards.
Sure.
Take care, everybody. Go definitely check out Odd Man's work. Subscribe to Odd Man. You can find him where podcasts are usually found. Apple Podcasts, Patreon. Definitely, I am a Patreon member. I am a happy Patreon member. So definitely throw Oddman a couple of bucks for all his hard work, and following him on Twitter. I'll have everything in the show notes after we're done. Take care, everybody. God bless you. See you soon.